Right now, we got him. We got all the technical difficulties smoothed out. No thanks to our producer, Matt. Shaun, no, man. Shaun O'Hara, what's up, brother? What's going on?
Hey, top of the morning to you guys.
How's it going?
I thought we were going to have to do this charade style for a second there, but all is not lost. I love you guys are in Chi-Town. All right. Shout out to Chicago. Shout out to Homewood Flossmoor, home of the Vikings, where my dad went to high school and was actually still on the wall, all right, at Homewood Flossmoor for the Cal Mall Award, which was like the best athlete his senior year, 1969. So shout out to Big Dave O'Hara.
Love that.
Oh yeah, man. Shaun, what about this? Before we get into tonight's game, whatever, we were talking about it coming in, but I want to ask you a little bit about your story because, like, it's just wild. It's kind of Baker Mayfield-esque, right? Walk on at Rutgers, undrafted, and then to a 3-time Pro Bowler, Super Bowl champ, 11-year vet, just awesome in New York. Like, how does that happen? How did you seemingly slip through the cracks at every level of evaluation and then still end up being so badass?
Yeah, great question. Very similar to Baker Mayfield, with the difference that he was the #1 overall pick.
True. Okay, fair. He slipped through the first round. He slipped through the first round. Yeah.
He had a couple more commas on his signing.
Fair.
Scouts are human too. You know, that's kind of the way I look at it. Like every year you look at the rosters, there's a couple of undrafted free agents that make the team. My situation coming out of Rutgers was a little bit, it was complicated. We were 1-11 my senior year. I was playing left tackle at Rutgers. And,
oh, wow.
Statistically, I was, 6'3.5", 295 pounds. That's not a normal, that's an undersized, offensive lineman by any standard, but certainly not left tackle standard. So I was being graded by Blesto and by all the scouts as a left tackle. And of course, I told everybody, look, I want to move in. I want to be a center. I wanted to play center at Rutgers, but I had to play left tackle because I was the best lineman there. And that was what we needed for the team. So that's kind of why, coming out, I was a little flew under the radar. But, I think I be walking on at Rutgers. It was kind of like the same thing. I walked on in the NFL. So I guess I'm just the kind of guy, I never get the invitation to the party, but I just show up and I end up being the MVP. So, I feel like that's part of me being part Irish Mule. But I think it's also, I use that so much now. I coach my son's football team. I talk to kids. I go to camps. Look, like talent is overrated sometimes. And guess what? Hard work beats talent when talent doesn't work hard. And I think that's one of the things that I learned early on is, look, your talent may get you in the door, but what do you do once you get there? Are you willing to put in the work and do things that other guys aren't willing to do to get to where you want to be? And I think that's something I learned early on. The NFL, it's, somebody told me once, look, you spend your first couple of years trying to get into the league and you spend the rest of your career trying to hang on to the league. And that's kind of how I felt like my whole career was like, look, you got to prove yourself every single year. They're trying to bring in, fresh meat, guy trying to restock the roster for cheaper, younger labor. And the longer you're in the league, the harder it is to stay in there. But it all comes down to just, look, you gotta be able to crush beers at night and you got to be able to crush the weights in the morning.
Hell yes, dude.
Fill in.
One thing that can help with job security is if you marry your head coach's son. Is that something that you guys ever talked about in the locker room with any of your,
Yeah,
I messed it up. I just messed that up. That would probably
be really awkward.
That would probably work the other way. If you marry your head coach's daughter, that helps you hang out in the league for a while. Did that ever get awkward in the locker room when you were talking with your teammates? It's like, hey, you're not going to get cut.
Yeah. Well, listen, you're 0 for 2 right now because not only was you said the son and not the daughter, but you're talking about Chris Snee, who was my right guard. And I didn't marry the coach's daughter. Chris Snee did, but we had a lot of fun with that. It actually got him drafted. He was drafted, first pick in the second round. And it became, look, there were some humorous moments with that. And he, he went to Boston College where, Kate Coughlin went there. They met in college. They got married. He gets drafted in the second round. And there's a great story behind all that because, they came to Coach Coughlin. They were like, look, we've got this guy. We had him at the first round grade. He's a hell of a player. Are you okay with this? Is this going to be all right with the family? And he was like, absolutely. Let's do it if you think he's worth it. And I had a buddy that knew him coming out and he's like, this kid's a player. So this was not like, hey, we're drafting, Tommy Boy here, Big Tom Callahan's son. Like this kid can ball. And we knew right away Chris was a stud. And, this is awesome. But one of the good stories is his first mini camp as a rookie, he jumps off sides. And, coaches, they're like, come on, let's go, son. Like, get your head out of your butt, let's go, son. You call everybody son. He goes, let's go, son. Know the snap count. And we're like, oh. Kaufman's face turns red. He's like, oh my gosh. Like, all right, now I can't use son anymore because, technically I called him Crawl. I don't know if you guys seen the Pauly Shore movie, Son-in-Law.
Yeah.
So I called him Crawl. But he was like, all right, I can't call Snee son. I can't call anybody son anymore. They added a little different element to it.
I should probably stop using the word son too. That just got me in some trouble. But I did know that it wasn't you. I knew it was your teammate. I was wondering about that, that locker room dynamic that you guys had. But you played for some great teams, obviously, with the Giants, won a Super Bowl. With these Giants going up against the Eagles, they got a great defensive line, great defense overall. How do you feel that this New York Giants offensive line is coming into shape? And do you think that that Dart instead of Russ under center is going to be a benefit to the offensive line as the season goes on?
Yeah, I think the offense looks different with Jackson Dart in a quarterback. They've run a lot more RPOs. I feel like the ball has been coming out quick. I think it's kind of added a little spunk to the offense. And, last week they started out no huddle, which I think is a great way to get some rhythm and kind of keep that defense on their heels a little bit. Look, 2 weeks in a row, the Giants have scored an opening drive touchdown to start the game. I can't remember that happening in the last 5 years, 2 weeks in a row. So that's been a big boost. But no doubt this offensive line is really the key. And anytime you have a young quarterback, look, I was there in 2004 when we drafted Eli, his rookie year. And we used to always say, look, first and second down, we got to pound the rock. Like, we got to make third down easy for him. We can't ask him, to convert 3rd and 10 all game long and think we're going to get a win. So I think this offensive line has gotten better every week this year. Week 1, Andrew Thomas was not in there, and they kind of flopped around in Washington, but they have started to stack together weeks. They're looking better. Andrew Thomas basically came back, and, he doesn't look like he missed any time. So he's kind of back to his old self. That has really solidified this front. But, one of the things that's different is with Jackson Dart, you said he's under center, which means he's playing quarterback, but he really is not under center very often. He's in shotgun the whole time. That's what he did in college. So that kind of changes things from a run game standpoint. And as an offensive lineman, I like my running back kind of being in the home position. I like him being behind the quarterback. Now he's got a two-way go, and now he can really press the hole and keep it front side. When you run a lot of runs out of shotgun, the running back is to the side. It shrinks the field. Mm-hmm. Like, you can't – now if he's to the left of the quarterback and he's handing the ball off right here, he's never going to get play side. He's never going to be able to stress the defense horizontally when he's in shotgun. So that's just a little inside the O-line room. My tip on that, I want to see Scadaboo in the home position. Get that little son of a gun downhill because he wants to run people over. Yeah. Like, he would actually rather run a safety over than outrun him to the sideline and use his speed. He's got a little meathead in him, which I like.
And that's exactly what I wanted to ask you about, Shaun. Scadaboo's probably the most likable and fun part about the team right now. And I used to play O-line too, and you just love those guys behind you, right? Like, how would you react if you were one of the salty vets and then you have this little psycho joining the team behind you?
I love it. I call him the Tasmanian devil. Like, he just kind of, everything he goes is just like creates havoc everywhere, leaves a mess of destruction all around him. That is contagious. And when you see a running back that's doing that, you're like, all right, man, I'm gonna teabag my guy too, because you're over there, wrecking shop. Like, I got a hold of my end of the bargain, and it just kind of, everybody feeds on it. It gives you like an identity. Like, this Giants offense has an identity with Scadaboo and with Dart out there. There's some personality. There's a little Ric Flair in there. 2 claps and a woo. You gotta bring a little energy, bring a little juice. So I like that about Scadaboo. Obviously he's got to hold on to the rock. And one of the tough things is when you're a physical runner, it's just kind of natural that the ball gets away from your body a little bit as you're making contact. So, he's figuring some of that stuff out. But look, I think the more you can get him the rock. The other thing that he's already become the O-lineman's best friend, not just because of his running style. I don't know if you guys have seen him chip. So, like, we used to tell running backs, on your way out on a pass play, don't ever free release through there. Hit somebody, like chip a defensive end, chip a D lineman. He cracked the ribs on, I think it was the Chiefs. He had a rib shot on left tackle sets. He comes right in, boom. Guy crumbles to the ground. And when you have a running back that's chipping guys that loves to block like that, I mean, that's like adding a sixth offensive lineman out there, and I know they love playing with him.
Yeah.
Hey, Shaun, Big T, good to talk to you. I don't know if you're hearing this kind of stuff. Even here in Chicago, I went to get coffee this morning. At the coffee shop, everybody was talking about tonight's going to be a Jalen Hyatt legacy game. They said this is his time. Darius Slayton and Malik Neighbors are out. It's going to be all Jalen Hyatt. What do you think about that?
Jalen Hyatt. Okay, got it. Way to clean it up, Big T. Yeah, Jalen Hyatt, we've been waiting for this. Like, I remember when he was drafted coming out of Tennessee. I mean, he was this guy that he could get behind anybody. And, I mean, he can fly. He's kind of struggled a little bit just with getting off some press coverage and, finding ways. The NFL, they're a little physical. And I think he's kind of struggled with that. But this absolutely is a great opportunity. That's what this league is all about. Guys go down, guys get hurt, something happens, and somebody's got to step up and play. This is a great opportunity for him to do that. I know they're going to try to take some shots, but, obviously you're kind of dictated by what the defensive coverage is. Look, nobody's doubling Jalen Hyatt in this game, but he's going to have a couple shots. I think he's got it in him. He's just got to go out and do it. Like, it's one thing to do it, during the week. I'm sure you guys play golf. Like, hey, it's one thing to go to the range. You're like, man, I'm dialed in with my 7-iron. And then you go out there and you got a little different lie. Maybe you got a little perspiration. Maybe you've had a couple transfusions. And now, look, I got to make the shot when it counts. Like, I think that's what Jalen Hyatt's got to do. And no better time to do it right now than Thursday Night Football at home at MetLife. They're going to take some shots with him. I think Wan'Dale Robinson is kind of their slot guy. So they like Wan'Dale on third down. They like getting the ball to him quick. And Jalen will hopefully be the big play guy for him.
Shaun, help us out here, because as a 11-year vet, like, you've seen it all. You know how this game works. And to the layman, we look at this on paper and we say, how do the Giants win? How do they even have a chance, right? I mean, the Eagles just are so much better. So in that locker room, in y'all's mindset, how does the NFL so often surprise us where these unexpected results end up happening?
Yeah, well, I got a Super Bowl ring that proves that too. Nobody thought we could beat the Patriots. We were massive underdogs. That was David slaying Goliath. I think that for the Giants, look, we see it around the league. Look, the Chiefs just lost. I mean, nobody saw that one coming. Like, I feel like every week there's a surprise win, and you're like, how did that happen? Look, football is great, and it's the ultimate barometer because it tells you what you're doing well right now. Like, don't tell me what you did last month. Don't tell me what you did 3 weeks ago. Like, you have to show up and play. There were times when I would go to the stadium and I thought, man, we're going to kick the snot out of these guys. Like, they suck. And we lose by a last-second field goal. And you're like, how the hell did that happen? Like, we're way better than that team. That's ball. Like, you got to go out and you got to prove it every single Sunday or Thursday night in this case. And I think that's kind of what you're seeing. But for the Giants, look, they have pissed their pants more this year than anything else. Like, they are the ones that keep beating themselves, dropping the ball, fumbles, interceptions. They had chances to win some of these games, and you turn the ball over. That's like you're like gifting the other team a win. So for the Giants, they can't beat themselves. Look, the Eagles have had their number. It's hard to even call us a rivalry right now with how one-sided it's been. But I think, look, they got a shot. You got to make a couple plays. You get a defensive, turnover. Dexter Lawrence, almost had a thick six, we call it, high scores. Like that ignites your team. So you can get some help, special team or defense. Look, anything's possible. But, mission number one is they got to tackle an old friend.
Yeah.
Barkley.
Mm-hmm. Hey, how many beers if the Giants win tonight?
How many beers?
Yeah, how many beers are you going to have if the Giants win tonight?
Oh, I mean, look, I don't like to judge. I think, you stop counting after 5. If they win, it's like you had an ace, on the golf course. You had a hole in one. Like, nobody's going home. Nobody's going home.
Yeah.
We're on the house. Here we go. Everybody's staying. Call the wives, call the family. Like, nobody's coming home tonight.
Let's go, Shaun O'Hara. Hey, thank you so much, man. Absolute legend. Thank you for joining us this morning.
All right, thanks, boys. Have a great day.
You too, man.
Thanks, Shaun.
God, he's awesome.
I'll be honest, I didn't know much about Shaun O'Hara before he came on the show. I'm a massive fan of him.
Massive
Big fan.
fan.
Big fan.
He also stumbled upon a core guiding tenet in my life as well, which was, If you want to hoot with the Owls at night, you got to soar with the Eagles during the day. What do you say? Crush beers at night, crush weights in the morning?
Weights,
Yeah, that's a good one. That's
Hell yeah, dude. All right.
Also said he wouldn't marry the coach's son, which I now question his football loving, because
you got to do
How
whatever
bad
you
do you
can.
want it?
How
How
bad
bad
do you
do
want
you
Yeah,
it?
you got to do whatever you can to stay on the
In this
roster.
league, I would marry my coach's son if it meant I had a 12-year career. Jerry?
Nope, pass.
All right, don't love ball.
I would marry both of his sons.